presentation of WI Garden Media, the voice of Garden Talk Radio.
Coming up on the program today, we're going to discuss weeding your garden, getting those pesky things out so your plants can grow, as well as preserving mistakes. What you may be doing wrong that you're not aware of. Our guest is author Renee Dang, and we'll answer your garden questions. The hour's full, so join us.
You are listening to the most informationally packed hour of garden-focused radio in the country and on the internet with your host, husband and wife team Joey and Holly Baird. This is the Gardening with Joey and Holly radio show.
And welcome to the Gardening with Joey and Holly radio show. I'm your host, Joy Baird. Beside me is my wife, co-host, best friend, and gardening partner,
Holly Baird.
And we thank you for taking time out of your day to allow us to be part of it. We greatly appreciate that. Whether you're listening to us on one of the 20 AM and FM frequencies broadcasting our program here in 2023 through a radio app, through our parent website, which is the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com, or under the Season 7 tab at the top of the page, in studio video replay, downloading it as a podcast. We thank you for doing such. This program is to help your garden grow better, to maintain your landscape, grow healthier trees, make your grass look greener, as well as preserving what you grow. There are several ways in which you can communicate with us. You can simply just give us a call toll free, coast to coast, at 1-800-927-SHOW. That's 1-800-927-7469. Or you can send us an email to gardentalkradio@gmail.com. That's gardentalkradio@gmail.com. Either way, you can get a hold of us. So, weeding, Holly, it is a problem that we all face. Now, there's like 1%, fraction of a percent, in my estimation, of gardeners who don't deal with weeds. And that is on a couple of factors. One, they don't care. Or two, their garden is in containers. Or three, they have got it so pristine in using tools and or decades of pure purging the ground of weed seeds that they don't have weeds.
Yeah,
but that's only less than a percent. That's my ratio.
Yeah, unless you
and more power to you.
You'd have to spend a lot of time.
And there are people that we Joe Lample, host of PBS The Growing Green World, he's interviewed people that do such that. They have no weeds. They weed 5 minutes a week and they're done, which is great, wonderful. But all of us, for the most of us, Holly, we don't have that luxury, whatever you want to call it. I mean, if we put the work into it, I'm sure it could be.
It's more common to have weeds than not,
yes,
basically, and that's okay. It's, I guess, you're not alone type of thing. So one thing is that if you can try to avoid having weeds, one thing is tilling, and I know this is a very controversial topic, but if you till your garden, you are chopping up the roots, and then you are propagating more weeds, essentially. And we're not shaming you for tilling. We get the appeal and whatnot, but for us, we don't till, but we still have weeds, so right. I guess that doesn't mean anything.
Now there is,
but you can increase.
Right. Now there is some, is it okay to till? Well, whenever you know you have all the weeds extracted from the garden. If you've gone through with a garden fork and removed the roots and all of that, then you can till, but there's no point of tilling because you've already tilled the soil essentially by using the garden fork to remove all the particles of roots. And many of these roots are aggressive and will propagate from very fine fragments of roots that are left in the ground.
Absolutely. And that's something that you want to keep in mind. No matter what kind of gardening you do, you likely will end up with weeds. It's just a matter of the amount. So another thing you can do is you can mulch. Mulching is beneficial for your garden for many reasons. One, it does help suppress the weeds. Now, it doesn't mean that your garden is going to be weed-free, but it will suppress some of the weeds, especially the smaller ones that are more weak. Strong, aggressive weeds are going to do what they need to do.
Well, here's the example. In the fall, we put leaves in our raised beds. We don't cover them thoroughly. We just, in a quick motion, dump a bunch of leaves that we get from the street and the property on the bed. The beds that we don't cover when we get to the garden, because there's no sense of working the garden when it's frozen, and when that soil warms, those weeds shoot up. In the beds that have leaves, very few, almost to no weeds, and I mean we're talking 6-8 inches of leaves. The places where there is no leaves, the plants are 6-8, the weeds are 6, 8, 10 inches tall very, very rapidly.
Absolutely. So that's why mulching is beneficial for weeds. Also helps keep the moisture in the soil.
And it covers it.
Yep. And that's what's important. It also can help kind of regulate the temperature.
Well, what kind of mulch would you recommend?
I would use, if you can't have access to leaves, I would just use straw.
And people are concerned with what is sprayed on the straw. Is it a herbicide or a pesticide?
Well, usually it's like oats.
Well, now, see, growing up on the farm, we never sprayed wheat. We never did. We planted it in October and we harvested it in late June, early July, and we never sprayed a thing on it. Now I'm understanding that every year they come in with a helicopter or an airplane if it's too wet, or they bring sprayers in. They spray something because there's another bug that's infested in the wheat that could damage and eat and they got to kill it. So there's a whole theory on why I think that exists. But you'd have to check the supplier. Go to the local farmer. Hey, I'd like to buy some wheat straw, oat straw, barley straw. Can I? One, how much is it? Two, and well, I guess the first question is, do you spray anything on it? Because here's my intended purpose for it.
Right. And yeah, you want to make sure you have an education about what's going on with the straw and what you could be putting into your garden.
It's good that you ask.
Now you don't want to use hay though, right?
No, hay is the grasses that is cut for feed for cattle, livestock, horses, goats, any of that. That contains a lot of weed seed, so you're going to be introducing weeds into your garden if you use hay. Straw is the stalk of the plant, which even if it's the stalk, there may retain some grains in those bales, but also may a few weed seeds, but very minimal, and those are easy to extract if distributed in your garden.
Right. So, yeah. So one thing is using mulch. And then if you want to use something, like some people will use a natural weed spray if you have aggressive weeds, not necessarily in your garden.
Nat Green Zero.
Yeah, Nat Green Zero. Maybe around your garden.
Nat Green Zero has a natural weed killer. Go to natgreen.com and use coupon code ship. Was it no ship for me? Free ship for me. Free ship. The number 4 for me.
Yep.
Yeah. And if we run over coupon codes that you're not able to capture, our parent website, the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com, has all of them listed under the Money tab at the top of the page.
Right. So then you can also spray something like Nat Green Zero, and then you want to hand weed. And the biggest thing is that if you hand weed when they're small, you usually don't have big weeds, or you have very few big weeds.
Unlike us.
Unlike us, we always like show up to the garden. It's like bam, weeds all over the place. So don't do as we do as we say, I guess.
Well, we weeded.
Yeah, we weeded.
We weeded all the beds.
Yeah.
The weeds are anywhere from 1 inch to 1 foot tall.
Right.
And we got them all through in the compost
and
pile.
It was mostly just like grass.
It was grass. Yeah. It was grass.
And then if you are going to weed something like a big thistle, make sure you wear gloves. Don't hurt yourself doing that. And make sure you try to pull it out as best as possible. Or if you have like a garden fork, you could kind of pluck it out that way too.
And the best time to weed is when the soil is semi-dry or almost completely dry. The dirt falls, or the soil falls off the roots. Don't get in there and try to weed after you've had 3 inches of rain. It's not going to work. You're going to most of the soil is going to stick to the roots. You're going to get covered in mud. It's not a fun experience whatsoever. So try to time that out, because regardless of how much water you put on your garden, your tomatoes, your peppers, your eggplants, those weeds are going to outgrow them no matter how dry they are. The drier the soil, it doesn't matter. The weeds are very aggressive. They're going to sustain life and try to choke out what you're trying to grow.
Right. Another thing you can do is you can maintain the garden edges.
Okay.
So a lot of weeds will pop up on the edges just because they creep in. Yep. And so if you have, this won't happen in raised beds because it'll just be the grass.
Well,
basically.
yeah, sometimes the grass will creep over and then grow up 10 inches through the compost.
So if you keep the edges clear, then maybe you'll have less weeding in the middle, hopefully. It just depends. Like we have Creeping Charlie, and I don't think I've seen that much in the garden beds.
No. But if you have aggressive plants such as Jerusalem artichokes or raspberries or blackberries that shoot off runners and multiply multifold each year, they can come in the beds or they can go out of the beds. So that's a good problem to have because these plants, these, let's say raspberries, you're looking at about $12, $15 a plant. So if you've got 10 or 12 of them popping up on its own, let them be and enjoy that free cash flow in your garden.
And
yes.
you could just, a couple of years ago, this big thistle downstairs by our door grew, and then I think my neighbor put a Christmas ornament on it because it was like the size of a Christmas tree.
Right.
So you can just add the weeds to your landscape.
Yeah. Well, weeds we've not weeded at some points, and aphids have attached themselves to lamb's quarters, and use that as a host plant instead of the intended plants in which we were growing. So that is also a way in which, if you're a little behind on time, or you leave some there, some bugs will attach themselves to those weeds. So that's another way. And introducing beneficial insects into your garden, and that's not necessarily going online and buying a bunch of ladybugs or praying mantis eggs in the spring or anything like that. Just keeping a healthy ecosystem, pest-free environment. And yes, you're going to have bad bugs and you're going to have good bugs. And in the perfect prairie world or in the woods, there's not gnomes growing or walking around spraying and shooting bad bugs. It naturally balances out.
Right, yeah.
And I don't think gnomes would shoot bugs. I don't think that's the type of personality a gnome would have. Maybe the ones that guard the bridge.
Maybe. There's just a natural
balance.
Balance, yep. And you know, if you feel bad about your weeds, don't. Remind yourself that everybody has weeds, and if you see your neighbor, maybe you don't think they have any weeds, I'm sure they got weeds somewhere.
If they don't have weeds in their garden, they got problems in other parts of their life.
They probably, no. They're probably honestly spraying it with something.
Well, yeah. And we talked to a gardener many years ago, and what he did, he lets the weeds grow. And then at the end of the year, he saves the seeds from the tomatoes, the eggplants, the squashes that survive, because that had a stronger gene pool in those seeds because they outgrew and outcompeted the weeds. And then he would plant them next year to get a stronger strain naturally of the plants.
Yeah.
So
there you go. You're like using this garden science something.
Nature,
ecosystem, fighting things. I don't know.
Well, we talked about the money tab, Holly, on our parent website, the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com, and that's where you can find the coupon code for WaltonsInc.com, where they have everything but the meat. As we're getting into butchering and hunting season and even fishing now, they have a little bit for everybody.
They do have a little bit for everything.
Even the vegans.
Exactly. Yeah, most vegans eat potatoes.
Yes.
So if you want to sprinkle some of these seasonings on your potatoes, like we had some baked potatoes for dinner the other day, and you put some, what did you put on there? Some potato thing?
Yeah, I forget, the potato mix that they have. It's really good.
And they use Excalibur spices, which are the professional quality ones. So
it's the good ones.
Yep. And then if you go to meatgistics.com, they have a educational site to help people learn the hows and whys of meat processing. And there's a community of 15,000 users who give their opinion and guidance on meat processing issues. They have everything from meat grinders, sausage stuffers, mixers, anything but the meat. And they go from animal to edible the best way. And you can go to waltonsinc.com or meatgistics.com. At waltonsinc.com, you can use code GROW50, GROW50 to save 10% off your orders of $50 or more.
If you have a way that you control weeds, we'd like to hear about it at gardentalkradio@gmail.com. That was just a small snippet of some of the ways you can weed your garden. Hang out with us. When we come back, we're going to go over preserving mistakes that you may or may not be aware you're making. You're tuned in to the Gardening with Joey and Holly radio show.
Have a garden question? Give Joey and Holly a call now or anytime 24/7. Just dial 1-800-927-SHOW. If you can't get through, leave a message and they will call you back. Call now 1-800-927-SHOW.
Grip 6 produces American-made products with sleek designs and quality materials. Based and manufactured in Utah, they have high-quality and durable products to last a lifetime. They are built beyond tough. Their belts are minimalist and one of a kind with no holes or flap hanging over. Designs and styles for men and women. Something for everyone. Versatile to mix and match fashionable buckles and belt webbing. Colorful or timeless designs to match your style. You know how bulky and uncomfortable a belt can be, but not a problem with the Grip 6 belt. Comfortable but durable, a belt that moves and works with you and your lifestyle. Perfect for all the bending, twisting, shifting, and moving during gardening, yard work, and all of your everyday life. It's almost like you're not wearing a belt at all. Designed and manufactured in-house for the best results and quality every time. When you purchase from Grip 6, you're supporting long life cycle products and American-made manufacturing. Check out their belts, wallets, and socks at grip6.com. Use code RADIO15 to save 15% off at grip6.com. Wind River Chimes creates a symphony in any space. Chimes that are inspired by nature and designed to make the natural world even more inspiring. Music speaks to everyone. Individually handcrafted in Virginia for over 35 years and hand-tuned for an exceptional precision and lasting beauty. Because in life, the winds of change are always moving. But no matter where they carry you, Wind River Chimes will always be the inspiring harmony. With a large selection and customization options, you will find the sound that soothes you. Visit windriverchimes.com to shop and find out more.
Rootmaker starts your plants off right and keeps them going through harvest. From their seed starting trays with an innovative design that air prunes the roots to their large variety of grow bags, 1 to 60 gallons. Their products will provide you the harvest you've never seen before. Visit rootmaker.com and use coupon code RADIO23 to save 15% off your order at rootmaker.com. Tree Hugger sprinklers are the ultimate watering device for either your newly planted or established trees and shrubs. Our sprinklers open and close around the trunk of your tree and provide 360 degrees of watering. With our adjustable valve, you can direct the water to your tree's targeted saturation zone. They come in 3 sizes, 7, 11, and 15 inches. You can purchase a Tree Hugger sprinkler at your local garden center, feed store, or hardware store. Go to treehuggersprinklers.com to find a retailer close to you. Or you can buy it directly from Amazon or treehuggersprinklers.com. If you're an independent nursery, garden center, hardware store, or feed store, you will want to stock this product. Contact the good people at Tree Hugger Sprinklers and they will get you set up. Your tree's best friend. treehuggersprinklers.com. Blue Ribbon Organics, providing locally made organic compost and soil blends for gardeners, farms, landscaping, and more. To find our products nearest you, visit blueribbonorganics.com.
Dig planting holes from a comfortable standing position. Step, twist, pull, and plant. Visit ProPlugger.com. Fleet Farm has everything you need to get ready for the canning season. Pick up all your supplies from start to finish as you begin to harvest your garden. Choose from an assortment of jars, strainers, racks, and funnels. Plus, check out the wide selection of mixes, sugar, vinegar, and more. Get what you need for your everyday life, including canning, at new, lower prices. Fleet Farm and FleetFarm.com.
The Gardening with Joy and Holly radio show is brought to you by the following: Dripworks, Rise Gardens, Grip 6, Bloomin' Easy, Fleet Farm, Waltons Incorporated, Blue Ribbon Organics, Tree Diaper. Find all sponsors at the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com and thank them for their support. Welcome back to the Gardening with Joy and Holly radio show. Thank you so much for allowing us to be part of your day-to-day. In a moment, we're going to discuss the mistakes that you might be making preserving your produce. But first, a word from our good friends at Farmers Defense.
Farm and garden in the ultimate comfort. Farmers Defense has lightweight and durable sleeves made to protect you against the elements while farming. Farmers sleeves offer unparalleled protection of arms and skin for any farmer, gardener, or outdoor worker. Say goodbye to irritated skin and sunburns in the garden. Their sleeves offer cooling, comfort, and protection against the elements outdoors. An alternative to thick clothing, Farmers Defense is made of wicking material with UBF protection factor of 50 plus to protect you from your allergens and scratches. To find all of their great products and more, visit farmersdefense.com. That's farmersdefense.com.
Well, Holly, I'll tell you about Farmers Defense here. We camped and we got some property and we camped and we had to cut our way in. And I got the Farmers Defense sleeves because I knew that it was going to be brutal on my arms by going through thistles and ferns and trees and everything else, and don't have a single cut. And we cut 150 yards in the woods, and not a single cut on my arms at all, not at all. And they worked exactly as they're designed. They don't snag, they don't tear, and they were comfortable. It wasn't like they were hot or anything. So farmersdefense.com, Holly.
Right. So, with that being said, we need to talk about making some preserving mistakes.
We need to talk about how to avoid the preserving mistake. Let's make some preserving mistakes. Dirt, throw it in the jar.
Yeah. Okay, so the biggest one, and I don't want to say the biggest one because
one of the most popular ones.
One of the most popular ones is not using properly ripe produce. So if you're using underripe or fully ripe, if you're going to err on the side of caution, I would use slightly underripe if that's all you have. But you want to make sure it's properly ripe. If it's too ripe, it can go bad faster.
Start fermenting. Well, that's the thing. We see a lot of questions online, Holly. How do I hold my beets or cucumbers or fill in the blank until I have enough to preserve? And is there really an answer to that?
Not really. Cucumbers, you kind of have to just have an abundance and then plan
the planting so you have everything
or go to the farmer's market and just do it. Stacking them up isn't really going to help, especially if you want crisper pickles.
They dry out quick.
Yeah, they dry out quick. All that stuff. So yeah, you want to make sure that you are being smart about it. Say you get, like up here we have the peach truck.
Okay, up here, what does that mean for those?
In Wisconsin.
where the show originates. Yeah. Up here. Well, that could mean anything.
We have the peach truck, and then I think sometimes they have blueberries.
Yeah.
You would want to make sure when those peaches start to get ripe, or the blueberries, you do them right away, whatever you're going to do.
Well, and that's the thing with tomatoes. You can harvest them early and let them ripen inside. But it seems like within an overnight, they turn and they get squishy and then they go bad or they get overripe. They start fermenting inside the skin. You can look at them, and if you wait long enough and see it happening. With tomatoes, for example.
Yeah. Make sure you're using properly ripe produce. So another one is that if you are canning something, you don't want to deviate from the recipe, especially when using water bath canning. Now, when using
pressure
canning, you can follow a recipe, but you just don't want to
create your own.
You can create your own, but what I'm saying is that you want to make sure you follow the time and the pressure and blah, blah, blah.
Altitude as well.
Yeah, altitude
that
as well.
That is a big key with pressure canning because the different altitudes defer to different time lengths, which could defer to healthy or dead.
Right. But with water bath
and that's
canning,
not a joke. It's not a joke. That's really a thing.
Either way, canning is a science. So you want to keep that in mind. And you want to, when you're water bath canning, because a lot of times if you're making, say, jelly or jam, you want to follow the recipe because there's a certain order of putting things into the pot and stirring and getting to the jars. And if you overcook your jam, it could be too dense or too runny or whatever, or if you undercook it. So there's a whole science there. Same thing with pickles, cucumber pickles, if you overcook or undercook, or if you don't move swiftly through the process.
But I've got this recipe that I've had for 40 years that my great-grandmother used. I'm still using it, and it still works. We're still alive.
I don't know. I would probably get that looked at.
Frame it, and then go to modern recipe.
Right. But this is a grandma 2.0 or something.
But can't you take that recipe if you have one and that you want to use that's been passed down that it's not safe? Can you not take that to a master canner and then they can alter it to the correct measurements today?
Yeah, you probably could. Or you can probably find something similar.
Call your local extension office to find that information.
Your local university extension. So yeah, make sure you're just following the recipe. And that being said, you also want to make sure you have all the ingredients, equipment. You might think, I might have a bottle of lemon juice in the cupboard, and then
from
you go
2018.
It might be from 2018. It might not even be there. You might have used it last minute. Your kid might have used that vinegar for a science project. Who knows? So you want to keep in mind that you do know what you have on hand, and that if you need to go to the store, go to the store. Same thing when it comes to jars. You might have wide mouth jars, but no wide mouth lids, and you want to can something in wide mouth, and now you're scrambling to find the jars or find the lids or whatever in your home, and it's frustrating and it's not fun.
Well, there's and doing it wrong. There's people that will take glass fill-in-the-blank jars and the lids that came from those pasta jars or mayonnaise or whatever that are metal and reuse them as in their processing. They take the Prego can and pop the lid back on with the pickles inside of it, put in a water bath, and then it'll be fine. I'm saving money. That's very risky. Not safe, very risky. Next one here is just because it's cheap doesn't mean it's good.
Right. Are you talking
freezer
about
bags?
The freezer bags? Yeah. So there's specific freezer bags. There's specific storage bags. And so if you are going to freeze something, I just buy freezer bags, and I know they're like a little bit more, but that way, if I'm going to freeze something, it doesn't matter like if it's something from the garden or if it's extra chili that we have left over that we're not going to eat, because as much as Joy and I love leftover chili, it's just two of us, and sometimes you just
You can only eat so much chili.
Right. You can only eat so much chili. And so then we have that extra on hand, which is especially good over potatoes. If you ever make a big potato, put some chili on it, makes a really good meal. But yeah, so
they're like 2 to 3 times thicker than the El Cheapo ones, the store brand.
And even now, we have an ice maker. We bought an ice maker for our home because our refrigerator doesn't have
We're
one.
those people.
We're not those people, but I like ice, and I work from home,
right?
And have for the past 3 years, and I miss the ice machine at work, so I bought an ice maker, and I started using these freezer bags, and they're okay. But since I bang the ice aggressively to get it chopped up,
right, to break it, because
break it,
as it makes the ice,
it kind of freezes. It kind of melts together.
Melts together, and you put it in the freezer, and it bonds all in a ice cube brick.
You know, like when you buy a bag of ice,
right.
You got to kind of break it up. So because I do that, then I'm like realizing I'm going through these freezer bags a little bit too quickly. So I found some reusable ones. So if you are going to freeze a lot and you're like, hey, you know what, I might invest in some regular reusable ones. Not saying you can't reuse your freezer bags, but if you want them to last a while, or if you have an ice machine, you're banging the bags against the freezer, then you can get the reusable ones.
Or yeah, if you just get the one standard, you don't have to play this. What was this bag, or where was this at, or we're out of this. You just get large the freezer bags regardless, and that's good to go.
The cool thing about those reusable ones, the ones I bought, they can stand up. They have like this base,
little base,
yeah. And then there's holes, not in the bag, but in the base part.
That's why they're so cheap. They cut half of it out and give it to you.
But there's holes, so like you could hang it up. Like say you want to like put it on a hook so you can wash it and then hang it up to dry.
Oh, you mean around the rim of the base?
Yeah.
Not the
not in the bag.
Right, the foundation of the bag, not the side walls of the bag. Yeah. Okay.
I didn't know the holes were in there. I saw that they could stand up when I bought them, and then when I got them.
Well, that's the thing. There's certain people that will reuse, wash and reuse bags. Now, I understand that to a certain level. There's certain things that can go in a Ziploc bag that you don't want to reuse that bag, even though it was food, chili or pasta sauce, but dry goods or something like that, green beans that you froze in the freezer. Yeah, you can reuse those bags with minimal amount of cleaning needed for that.
I mean, even I've reused bags from like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
Well, true. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't clean it out. I just shove the sandwich back in there. So,
right. Yeah. I get that.
Yeah.
Not working. You talked about this moments ago. Not working quickly when it comes to canning. This is just like Swift. You don't have 3 hours to do this, or hey, I'll just do half of this and I'll go and do something. I'll come back. It's all got to be done in the same time frame.
Right. That's one to, especially if you're making something like pickles, but just in general, jam, things like that. You don't want to cook your jam and then let it sit in the can it later. That's not going to happen. It's not going to be good. And also, just from an energy standpoint, if you're running your stove to get the water bath canner going and up to boiling, it does take some time. So once you get that water bath canner going, you just want to do the whole thing so you don't have to go back and do it again and blah, blah, blah.
And plan ahead that hey, I've probably got enough for a batch and a half because I've weighed these cucumbers or these tomatoes or whatever. And then you can do the math and figure out how much a batch and a half is, so you don't have to have that half of a batch sitting there and rotting until you get another half and make the whole thing. So you can do it all at once. And make sure that the recipe in which you're making is you have the correct jars. If the recipe says pints only, don't try to double it to make it quarts.
Right.
That's what I'm referring to, because people will try to do that.
Especially with jam. That's one of those things you want to stick with the size.
And a quart of jam, that's a lot of jam.
Right. You want to make sure you read the entire recipe / process time. So some of these recipes, especially, I think it was like zucchini pickles or something, or relish, or Jerusalem artichoke relish. You basically make a saltwater brine with, I think, some sugar or whatever. And you let those Jerusalem artichokes that you chopped up sit and soak in that brine.
For 3 hours.
3 hours. So if you're like, hey, it's 9 p.m. I'm just going to knock this out real quick before I go to bed. Then I'll just clean the entire kitchen.
First of all, you're not knocking anything out quick. This is a process.
Right. You are making a mistake, my friend. So What you want to do is just make sure that you read the recipe, the entire thing. Make sure you have all the ingredients. Make sure that you know what you're getting yourself into before you're like, I'm just going to wing it. I would not recommend winging, even if you are freezing something, because a lot of times if you're freezing something and you're trying to like parboil it or blanch it, then you want to make sure that you have enough ice on hand for an ice water bath. You want to make sure that you have your freezer bags ready. You might think that you have quart bags, but you only have gallon bags, or I don't think they make half-gallon bags. Maybe they do. But whatever, even if you are taking your root crops directly from the garden, putting them in a bag and putting them in the fridge, make sure you got room in your fridge. I don't know. But just kind of make sure you have like a whole idea of the process.
Inventory.
Yeah.
Well, the weather's warmed up, Holly. It's hot in a lot of portions of the country, and your garden is getting attacked with those beetles, weevils, and borers, especially those Japanese beetles on your tomatoes, your eggplants, your roses, your beans, and everything in between.
And what better way to prevent these pests from destroying your garden than by controlling them while they're larvae? Grub Gone is an easy-to-apply granule product that can be spread onto your turf to successfully control grub invaders. Developed by Phylum Bioproducts from our naturally occurring bacteria, Grub Gone is a non-chemical BT product that specifically targets only certain scarab pests, and it is safe to use around bees and other beneficial insects.
Yes, if you have those beetles flying around your garden already, and most of us do, Beetle Gone is an organic water dispersible powder that you can spray directly on your edible plants. Find out more when you go and visit PhylumBioproducts.com. That's PHYLLOM bioproducts.com. Hang out with us. Author Renee Dang will be with us. You're tuned in just moments away. You're tuned into the Garden with Joy and Holly radio show.
Got a question for Joey and Holly? Send it via email anytime to gardentalkradio@gmail.com.
Mantis tillers, the premium long-lasting gas-powered tillers, are the perfect solution for any garden. This Mantis machine is available with 2 or 4 cycle engines with a 19-inch or 16-inch tilling width. Your DIY companion in your garden and your lawn converts easily for edging, aerating, and more with optional attachments. Find details at mantis.com. A non-selective herbicide that is USDA certified? Yep, No More Weeds by Naturally Green Products. The same great company that brings you No More Bugs. No More Weeds kills weeds with no harsh chemicals and no glyphosate. No More Weeds is a commercial-grade vinegar base with a proprietary sticking agent. Great around pools, decks, patios, and more. Visit natgreenproducts.com. Free shipping on orders over $50 using code FREESHIP4ME.
Chapin has the tools for planting your garden and keeping it growing all season long. Whether your garden is big or small, Chapin has sprayers and spreaders for fertilizing, weed, and pest control, watering, and seeding. You can find Chapin products at your local hardware store, big box retailer. You may visit them also online at chapinmfg.com to learn more and buy online.
Make watering easy. DripWorks provides quality drip irrigation supplies and equipment to gardeners just like you for all your growing needs across the U.S. and Canada. Purchase online at dripworks.com.
Jung Seed Company is a family-owned and operated gardening company since 1907 with the largest selection of seeds and plants online. Use coupon code 10TG23 to receive 10% off your order at jungseeds.com. Again, that coupon code is 10TG23. Going on vacation and can't find a plant sitter? Check out Tree Diaper. It can provide perfect soil moisture for plants for weeks, even months. Use coupon code GARDEN15 to save 15% off at treediaper.com.
Aqua-Mart.com has everything you need for eye-pleasing outdoor water features on your property. For over 25 years, we've been creating and field testing beautiful water features in order to provide you with the most reliable products and best value in the industry. From easy-to-install pond and water-filled kits to pumps, fish food, and more, you'll find everything you need to install and maintain a naturally balanced water feature in your yard. Make your backyard a true oasis and maintain it well. Visit aqua-mart.com to shop for all your needs.
The Gardening with Joy and Holly radio show is brought to you by the following: Chapin Manufacturing Incorporated, Aqua-Mart, Soil Savvy, Wind River Chimes, Wisconsin Greenhouse Company, Pro Plugger, Deer Defeat, Dripping Springs Oyas, Phylum Bioproducts. Find all sponsors at the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com and thank them for their support. Welcome back to the Gardening with Joy and Holly radio show. Moments away, author Renee Dang will be with us. But first, a message from Rise Gardens.
Rise Gardens is a revolutionary hydroponic garden system for your home. Instead of food traveling hundreds or even over 1,000 miles before it hits your plate, harvest the veggies, herbs, and gardens you need for dinner tonight in the comfort of your home. No green thumb required knowledge. Gardening made easy with Rise Gardens app. Step-by-step guidance from seed to harvest. A complete garden on a shelf, and comes with everything you need to grow healthy and the freshest food for you and your loved ones. Fully customize your garden to your needs and preferences. For more information and get your Rise Garden, visit risegardens.com.
Hello, let's go to the hotline and bring in our guest for this week.
Renee Dang is a researcher, writer, and adventurer who shows beginners how to maximize their rainwater's potential for their home, garden, and livestock. Harvesting Rainwater for Your Homestead in 9 Days or Less is her new book. Welcome to the program, Renee.
Thank you. I'm super excited to be on.
Well, we thank you for taking time out of your day and not only about to educate Holly and myself, but all of our listeners. And I'll start with this question. Where did your passion for harvesting rainwater come from?
Yes. Okay. So, rainwater, it's a kind of a, it's a story, of course. There's always a story.
Right.
So in college, I was poor. And I was always, trying to learn how to save money on like energy bills and, was always researching. I don't know. I'm a huge researcher. I just love soak in information about, energy saving. And I became really interested in energy saving strategies and passive homes, and then eventually became sustainable homes. And, that coincided then with, I wanted to build a business, and through some research, I found out that people really wanted to learn about rainwater. So I guess that was kind of the natural interest segue from, you build the house with the solar panels, right, and then you're like, okay, what's next? And then so you have rainwater. And so I just started, researching about rainwater. But I think the real passion, that really is there, it comes from people. I've met a lot of interesting people who have had all sorts of really interesting stories about how their homestead is running out of water, or they're getting sick off of their rainwater and they don't know what to do. And just getting to meet them. And then we find out that, oh gosh, our families have similar backstories, or we both worked with nurses, and then all of a sudden we're just hitting off, and the passion has really stemmed from interacting with people that I never thought I would have met otherwise.
Fantastic. So what are some rainwater harvesting myths? So, for example, maybe aside from those myths, but if any suggestions for people with HOAs or areas that's not necessarily legal to harvest rainwater.
Yes. You know what's funny? And I'll say a lot of funny things because, people ask me, so what do you do? Meet people, what do you do? And I say, well, I wrote a book about rainwater. And usually the first thing that comes out of their mouths is, well, did you know that it's illegal to harvest rainwater in these states? And my first thing to say is that it's actually not illegal to harvest rainwater in any state. And that is actually my favorite little, myth buster, because, for the longest time, yes, it was illegal to harvest rainwater in Colorado and Utah. But now, it's not illegal to harvest rainwater in any state. There are restrictions, of course, but even Colorado, even if you have a homestead and you live off a well, you can harvest rain off of your home's roof and use that as much as you want to. So it's changing rapidly. And I think that, with the West and water issues, I guess, I live in Atlanta, Georgia, so we have a lot of rain here, almost too much sometimes. But from the conversations I've had, it can be challenging out there, and it's changing so rapidly. You can harvest, you can harvest quite a bit of rainwater now. Now, you mentioned the HOAs, which is very interesting, because yes, there are some HOAs that, I think from people I talk to, people don't like the tanks, in the front yard, which, I can understand. Sometimes you don't want to see a plastic tank in the front yard. But an interesting tidbit is that there are some states like Texas where, it's actually on a state level, it's illegal for an HOA to prohibit you from saying you can't harvest rainwater here. Like on a state level, an HOA can't tell you to not harvest rainwater. You're allowed to harvest rainwater in Texas, no matter what, apparently. So I find it interesting that there's a lot of, talk going around, the nosy neighbors peering their nose above the hedge and saying, you can't do this and you can't do that. But I think the best advice is to just go to the EPA's website and find out for yourself exactly what your state and then maybe your municipality's website, what those rules are, and then you'll know for certain. Yeah.
So maybe if you have an HOA, you have to have your rainwater harvesting match the color of your front door or something, and then it's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, some things like that. And I think, for some HOAs that don't allow tanks at all, earthworks, obviously a great option. If you just have a garden or something, just go ahead and create those little trenches and swales and put the rocks in and use that rainwater as much as you can. Rain chains aren't usually a big deal. But yeah, sometimes people also don't mind the steel tanks because they're pretty.
Right.
But yeah, I've heard of that too.
Well, tell us about your book, Harvesting Rainwater from Your Homestead in 9 Days or Less, and what's in there that would be intriguing to all of us.
Oh, yes. Okay. So when I first was researching about rainwater, I was wondering, well, there's all these blog posts on rainwater, and there's some really good books out there, like Brad Lancaster's book. Brad Lancaster, if you're listening, you're so cool. And and the Avis's book, there's some really great books out there. But as I was talking to people on Facebook and on forums, and I was like, so what's the problem? Why are you still so confused? Well, apparently a lot of people have, aspirations for rainwater, right? They dream of collecting rainwater and using it. But a lot of us are pure beginners, right? I didn't know what pump to choose or, where to even buy a pump, or that you can even choose different materials for pipes or even plumbing. Plumbing was a whole thing when I had to figure out how to communicate to a reader what a rainwater harvesting system looks like. So what's really, I think, unique about the book that I wrote was that it's really for beginners to rainwater harvesting. If you really have questions and you really want to go from aspiration to actualization, this book will guide you in 7 steps. I call it the quick rain blueprint. It's just it's a funny thing I made up, but I think it's really cool, and it's 7 steps to get you from figuring out what your constraints are from a state level and municipality level, which you said, how can it apply to all of us? Well, those things do apply to everybody. And not only that, but figuring out how to not overspend. So a lot of people have questions on well, I see these really pretty rainwater harvesting systems, but they cost me $20,000. Well, this book is meant to be just start from the smallest, most doable system that you can with your time and the money you have, and practice. And then, as you get your skills and you learn from your experience, you can grow your skills and grow your system to collect more and more rainwater. So I think that's kind of what I wanted for most people, was that it's an approachable way for anybody to start and collect their own rainwater and keep it clean, by the way. Yes.
Fantastic. So can we talk about rainwater hazards? Just some general hazards, and then things like decontaminating rainwater, or things to be aware of with harvesting rainwater and then turning it into drinking water.
Yes. So rainwater hazards. So, they're, I don't want to be a doom and gloom person, and I don't think anyone wants to be, but so I actually have a little chapter in the book kind of going over your need to know. What are the need to know hazards? And there are 7 of them that I would consider to be the main ones. And I won't go through all of them here, but I think some of the biggest ones I've noticed and I've encountered are, one, that water is heavier than you think. And I've seen some tanks, they're just so heavy that people don't realize, and it sinks into the ground. So people will put their tank on like, the mud next to the greenhouse. And then as it fills, and it's like a 5,000 gallon tank, plastic tank, it fills. And then, one side of their garden patch is softer than the other, and it starts suddenly sinking, and then the water's leaking out, and then the foundation of the greenhouse gets compromised. It can lead to one thing after another. So water is heavy, and, just be aware that a full IBC tote would weigh 2,000 pounds or more. So keep that in mind. And also that, keeping the water away from your foundations and having kind of a backup plan, because if/when, and I mean when the tank overflows, you are prepared. So just have that in the back of your mind. And you mentioned decontaminating rainwater. Yes. And I actually have a whole book coming out very soon as well all about decontaminating water and using it as drinking water. Because it turns out that it's actually a bigger topic, I think, than I could have covered in one book. But I went to Hawaii actually recently, the big island of Hawaii. Great place, awesome culture, amazing people, highly recommend. But an interesting tidbit about that place is that almost 50% of the population lives entirely on rainwater, and they all live on like individual tanks. So they are very well versed in keeping their rainwater clean and drinking their rainwater. But a lot of them have metal, all the homes have metal roofs. So in North America, the number one roof type is asphalt. And if you're going to be drinking your rainwater, it's not advisable to drink your rainwater if you're collecting rainwater off your asphalt roof. So things like that. But also, it runs the gamut. You can go from a UV filter to using a Berkey to chlorinating your water. It all depends on your personal preference, your costs. There's a lot of options. It does suit individual taste, but check out book number 2 when it comes out.
We're talking about Hawaii and they living off tanks of water. Forget about a 20-minute shower. You are very keen on how much water is being consumed in that house because it rains a lot out there, but you got to know how much, and luxury of long showers is not really a thing.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. And I found it very interesting. It was it's almost like a totally different mindset, because you also have to be aware of how clean is my water? Because if you're like you said, your 20-minute shower, if your water isn't very clean, you could be inhaling or breathing in, bugs. And I've heard that you can get stomach aches just from if your water isn't clean enough. So you have to be totally cognizant. It's like I live in Atlanta and I live off of municipal water. I never think about my water, but out there most of human civilization, right, had to think about how much water they had or how clean it was. So it is an important skill to have.
Well, let's talk about before we let you go. What about algae in rainwater in rain barrels? Is too much bad? Is any bad? What's the rule on that about algae in your rainwater?
Yeah. Okay, algae. So I have not heard of any specific metric saying this amount of particular algae is bad. And I don't know for certain if a type of algae is more toxic than another. I'm sure there's, certain strains there are, but I haven't done the research on it yet. But I think algae is more of a nuisance than it is like a toxin in itself. However, in Hawaii, for example, or, any tropical area, or, Florida has a lot of rain tanks too. Algae is a food source. And so you're going to get snails, which lead to frogs, which lead to rats, and then they can die in your tank. And then you have a whole contamination situation in your hands. And so keeping just algae out of the tank is on a little bit by little bit basis is better than having to then go ahead and empty the whole tank out because a rat died in it and you have to bleach the whole thing. So it also clogs your filters, can clog your pipes. So I think in general, it's probably just better to keep the whole tank clean while also not having to worry about what could be growing in your tank, because it is a food source.
Well, and algae is fed by light. So if you have a translucent barrel, that has more of a,
That's right.
more susceptible to algae developing there than a dark tank.
Exactly. And some tanks will be sold, quote unquote, as it'll be painted,
Mm-hmm.
and so they'll say it doesn't let light in, but then you put it up next to the sun and you see it's actually translucent. So you have to be cognizant of it and paint it if you do see the sun coming through. So just be wary of that.
Well, Renee, we've really enjoyed having you on the program. How can people find out more about you?
Yes, I just launched my website, reneedang.com, ReneeDang.com. And that's a great place to find me. I'm also on Instagram at author Renee Dang. I also have a Facebook group, Harvesting Rainwater for Your Homestead. And we have awesome people from all over the world sharing and asking questions. And it's a great place to commune and to collaborate.
Well, Renee,
ReneeDang.com is the best.
We greatly appreciate the time you've offered us, Renee, and the information and the education about rainwater that many of us probably knew, but knew wrongly. So we appreciate your time and your information.
Yeah, sure. I can't wait to continue the chat if anybody wants to chat or even propose an argument to what I had to say. Can't wait.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Joey. Thank you, Holly.
Absolutely. And when we come back, it's Your Garden Questions, Our Garden Answers. You're tuned into the Gardening with Joey and Holly radio show.
Got a question for Joey and Holly? Send it via email anytime to gardentalkradio@gmail.com.
Deer Defeat is an all-natural based animal repellent to keep deer and rabbits away from your valuable plants that is odorless after 30 minutes and dries clear. It creates a continuous, invisible shield to protect your plants. Works for 30 days through rain, snow, and freeze. Will not clog your sprayer. Apply to your property without environmental damage. You can spray directly onto your plants up to flowering, then apply around your plants to continue protection. No need to reapply. Money back guarantee. To purchase, go to deerdefeat.com and use coupon code RADIO to save 10% off your order. You put a lot of time and energy in your garden, but without a rescue Japanese beetle trap, you can kiss that hard work goodbye. Asparagus annihilated. Raspberries ravished. Green beans, forget about it. Get those little invasive pests out of your garden and send them where they belong inside a rescue Japanese beetle trap. Now with available refill lures, rescue Japanese beetle traps can be used for multiple seasons. They're made in the USA by the makers of the popular Rescue, Fly, and Yellow Jacket traps. Learn more at rescue.com. That's RESCUE.com.
Hi, I'm Russell Taylor with Live Earth Products. I'm a soil health expert, here to help you. Live Earth Products specializes in soil conditioners and fertilizers that will help you build healthy and vibrant flower and vegetable gardens. As our name describes, Live Earth means healthy soils. Live Earth Products are humic and fulvic soil amendments and are all natural, organic, and directly from our family mine in Utah. Live Earth products are easy to apply, and the results will blossom right before your eyes. Live Earth products can be applied throughout the growing season. So pick up Live Earth Humate Soil Conditioner, our Liquid 6 Humic Acid, at your local garden center or on Amazon. Also available through our website, liveearth.com. That's LIVEARTH.com. Live Earth, here to bring vitality to life in your garden.
You know what's different about Verlo mattress? Everything. Like no price gouging, no shenanigans, none of the shady dealings of other mattress chains and furniture stores that overcharge for virtually the same mattress. The ripoff stops here. Verlo makes every mattress they sell, so you get better quality, lower prices, and a lifetime comfort guarantee. Because at the end of the day, you don't deserve shenanigans, you deserve a good night's sleep. Wake up, sleep better. Verlo.
Dripping Springs Oyas clay pot irrigation solves the watering needs for gardens, bushes, new trees, and more. An ancient irrigation system we brought to America. Dripping Springs Oyas, OLLAS, on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. Check us out.
Garden like a pro in 3 easy steps and receive customized fertilizer recommendations for your garden or lawn. Soil Savvy helps you determine what nutrients your plants need to thrive. Never again over-apply nutrients they don't need. A patented process that makes you a smart gardener. To get your soil test kit, go to mysoilsavvy.com.
The Gardening with Joy and Holly radio show is brought to you by the following: Happy Leaf LED, Root Maker, Jung Seeds, Tree Hugger Sprinklers, Verlo Mattresses, Farmer's Defense, Pomona Universal Pectin, Natural Green Products, Mantis Tillers. Find all sponsors at the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com and thank them for their support. Welcome back to the Gardening with Joy and Holly radio show. Thank you for being with us today. It's time for your questions, our answers to the top of the hour. If you've got a question, we've got an answer. You can do that by giving us a call at 1-800-927-SHOW. That's 1-800-927-7469. If we can't get you on before the top of the hour, leave a message. We'll call you back with an answer. Or you can send us an email anytime, and you can call anytime. You can send us an email anytime to gardentalkradio@gmail.com. That's gardentalkradio@gmail.com.
So,
yes,
we have a question here.
It's sponsored by Fleet Farm and fleetfarm.com.
Correct. What is the best way to know when to harvest onions and potatoes so they are as large as possible?
Well, on onions, when the top crimps over on the base, right above the bulb, the time to harvest is now. They're not going to get any bigger. That is the veins in order to uptake nutrients into the top of the onion. When it crimps over, regardless of the size of the bulb, it's time to harvest. They're not going to get any bigger, so you just go ahead and harvest. With potatoes, after 10 weeks of planting, you can harvest baby potatoes. If you want to maximize the potential of the tuber at the time of, as the plants begin to die back, once you see a discoloration on the top of the plant, you can go ahead and harvest them. The energy is already done putting into the tuber, regardless of the size of them. So you don't have to wait until the plant completely dies and dissipates and goes away, and then you got to guess where was my potatoes at because the hills are kind of falling apart. You can do that at any time after the plants begin to die off.
Each year, I attempt to have sweet peppers. Everything in my garden, vegetables and fruits grow great, but the pepper plants always look puny. They have peppers on them right now, but the plant doesn't even look strong enough to hold them to maturity. Leaves are not that green like they should be, and the plant is not bushy. I never know if they like more or less watering. What do you think? So consistent watering is best for peppers. Peppers are very fidgety.
Yeah.
They like the consistent watering. You can also add a pepper fertilizer. An all-purpose fertilizer would do, but a pepper fertilizer will have a high number on the third number on the package. So when you're looking at a package of fertilizer, it's going to have 3 numbers. That's NPK, nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. So the third number is the potassium. Otherwise, if you are experiencing pepper problems all around, all-purpose is good too. Maybe get a soil test because...
Soil test from soilsavvy.com. That's going to tell you. The soil test from soilsavvy.com, Holly, is the best place to go because you can't just look at the soil and go, yeah, that's the problem. Even though the pepper is showing certain characteristics, there can be a multitude of reasonings for such characteristic being shown by the pepper plant.
Absolutely correct. So that is the solution there.
All right, next question here. I'm a new gardener, 3rd season this summer. My family had some hard times in health problems, and I completely missed planting the season. I live in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. Now here I am in mid-July. I'm about to go on vacation, worried about my soil and my raised beds. What is the best next step? Is there something specific I could plant as a cover crop, or should I just wait until late August? Honestly, all I've been doing this summer is pulling weeds out of the raised beds where nothing has been planted. Any advice or guidance is appreciated.
Yeah, so we appreciate the email and the question always. If you are going to plant a fall crop in August, buckwheat is a fast-growing cover crop. It can grow 2 to 3 feet within 4 weeks, and there's no shame in waiting until late August also. Just to add on to this isn't quite the question. If you are thinking about growing something that is edible, I don't really know what buckwheat is.
Buckwheat is just grain. It's a grain.
Just grain.
Yeah.
You could grow things like lettuce, peas, root crops like rutabaga, turnips,
radishes,
carrots, right?
Carrots 70 days. Yeah.
Yeah, carrots would be okay.
Radishes
so you do
for
have
30.
You do have some options for fall planting.
All right, Holly. I was wondering, how do you get rid of cucumber beetles? I used neem oil, but they aren't going away.
Sure. So neem oil does not kill insects right away. Unfortunately, it interferes with their hormones,
and it messes with it. It gets the eggs. It doesn't get the adult insects.
So so you want to keep that in mind. It's not
a large caliber firearm might be appropriate.
I don't think you need to shoot bugs. Oh my goodness!
They have guns that shoot salt at flies. Okay, so.
All right. So anyway, that's a salt gun.
Yes, that's right.
So the oil does work eventually, but it doesn't take care of the problem like immediately. And so it's something to keep in mind.
You're trying to disrupt the reproductive cycle here.
Yeah. You can also use a row net over the cucumbers. It's not going to be perfect, but it is an option. You can spread diatomaceous earth around the base of the plants. Or sometimes people spread coffee grounds because it smothers out those beetles and their larvae.
Well, if you're going to do the cover on your row, don't do it now. If you've already got them, don't do it. That's something that as soon as you plant the crop next year, then you put the cover over top of it to prevent any potential infestation of the bugs. Well, Holly, that will wrap it up. We're out of time, and we thank you for yours. Miss any portion of the program, send us an email to gardentalkradio@gmail.com, and we will send you a link to the program. You can also find out past programs and the coupon codes at our parent website, which is the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener .com at the top of the page, Radio Season 7 tab and the Money tab. Tune in next week to the program where we'll be talking about the power of fall leaves as well as storing your harvest. Our guest is author Mary Kate McHackey and will answer your garden questions. So until next week for
Hi, Baird.
I'm Joy Baird, and we will see you in the garden.